Okay. Cool.
Okay, is it working? Awesome. Hello again. Thank you for being patient while we sorted some technical difficulties. Shall I reintroduce it, or shall we just get started?
Yeah. Let's formally reintroduce ourselves.
Okay, so hello, good evening, happy time zone. My name is Louise, also known as the Nerdy Archer. I and along with and Ash. Say hello, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Have been invited onto Zark, aka Master Hecate Ceremonial's AC15 Syndicate stream tonight. And what we are basically planning to do is give you a little bit of a historical arcade gaming walking tour through Victorian London with some key facts and interesting details about locations, people we might have met in the game, and a little bit of info that we have found for you, and just give you some fun. And also, there may be some AC quizzes from Ada at some point. Wink, wink. There are many. I'm very excited. Hello, Meg in chat. Hi. Yeah, so we are starting off in Palace of Westminster, also known as the Houses of Parliament. And Ash, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. Can we head to the Westminster Hall of the Parliament? They did it very accurately, and we're gonna have a tour of that whole hall. Just to say how accurately they did it. But while we head there, can we start with the first Assassin's Creed trivia question?
Oh yeah, of course. So this is actually going to be a very, very easy one. Because I thought I should not go overboard, and I'm kind of expecting people that are watching on YouTube to also, if they can, to answer. So the idea is some of the questions are going to be just questions you can answer. If you don't know the answer at all, I'll give you multiple choice and then you can choose. And others are more like completing a sentence, or I will give you several options and you have to tell me which one is not true. Okay, so there's a little bit of everything to answer. And the first question is what some of the questions of the Templar Grand Master in London during Victorian era? Are more like completing a sentence, or I will give you several options and you have to tell me which one is not true. Okay, so there's a little bit of everything to answer. And the first question is what some of the questions of the Templar Grand Master in London during Victorian era? Are more like completing a sentence, or I will give you several options and you have to tell me which one is not true. Okay.
Database entry that he has an older brother.
No way.
And never, yeah. So the database entries that came back for Syndicate, they're written by Sean Hastings, and in it describes how Crawford and his older brother, who was unnamed, were put against each other and competitive from a very early age. Such an interesting focal point and parallel to the twins, especially when you consider that Ethan also did that.
Guys, sidebar. Whoever's playing AC Syndicate, can you go back to the hall? Who was playing AC Syndicate? And it's glitching.
It's Zark's in control. We are.
Okay.
Are just the historians and lore questions.
Zark, go back to where you came from. That big hall. Just start from the beginning. Anyway. You guys were saying?
No, you can start explaining, yeah? That's if I might be.
Oh yeah, of course.
Or All over to you.
All right. Let me see. Where are we at? Make a right. Yeah, just like go straight, Zark. You hear me, Zark? You see. Hello?
Yeah, he can hear you. Just tell him which way to go.
Okay. Yeah, just like go straight, and then turn your back. Turn to your back. So we start the tour from where you're at. Anyway, let's start. Sorry, I'm such a perfectionist. All right. Let me start. So Westminster Hall is the hall that we're standing in right now. Ubisoft actually did a really great job at it. I think it's not that hall. It's the hall behind you, Zark. Anyway, it's the oldest building in the Parliament. It like survives almost to its original form since it was built in, I think, 1107 in William II's reign, who was William the Conqueror's son. It was a project that was made to impress his subjects, and the hall, it was the biggest hall of London at that time. It had like a 73 by 20 meters. For our American listeners, that's 240 by 67 feet. Just to tell you guys about it. And Zark, can you head to the start of the building? You're at the end of it. Just to the other side, because I want to show people the common please court, because there were 3 courts in this area. In 1215, after the Magna Carta was signed, which took the sovereign's power, and it did not hold it above the law. It elevated individual rights. So like 2 separate courts were made to deal with civil and criminal issues. Okay, you're good, Zark. Just look back right now. To where you came from. You're at the garden. I'm not looking at the garden. Go back into the room and just like stay there. Let me see.
Perfect. Hello, everyone joining us in chat.
I think my stream is a bit backed up. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. So sorry. So 2 separate courts were made for individual rights to be on the spotlight. The 2 civil courts were the Common Pleas court, which was any civil case brought to the attention of the court, or the King's Bench, which was a big Supreme Courtish like cases that involved criminal activities that were of interest to the monarch. What's curious about the Westminster Hall is the historical accuracy it portrays in AC Syndicate and its structure. So, as my source mentions, the common pleas was located near the chief door of the hall on the north. That's where Zark is standing right now, and if he looks to his right side, you'll see the first court over there made of oak plank, which all the court structures were. They were made of oak planks, and that's seen over here. Let me see. Maybe if I reload this thing. Oh yes. So yeah, right where the two gentlemen are standing over there. That's where the common pleas were heard. Which is super cool. Like, you get to research about this, and then you see it in game. It's like, oh my god, historical accuracy. And then if you go a little bit more forward to the southern end of the hall, you'll see the King's Bench. And the King's Bench, of course, like I said, was made for like Supreme Courtish like stuff. And right by it is the Chancery Court, which was established in the 15th century as a place where legal issues of land law, trusts, like the big legal stuff, were like held over there. So to the right, kind of center-like place, you'll see the King's Bench, and then to the left of it is where like the big legal stuff were made. And for the Parliament, the King's Bench and the Chancery were established in the opposite corners at the south end of the hall, so in game it's the same layout. So yeah, that's and at the end of... Sorry?
Oh, have you got something to say before we move on? Sorry, I thought you were finished.
Yeah, just a little bit more. Zark, can you go to the big stained glass window at the end of the hall? Let me see.
The fact that this section of the Houses of Parliament survives is a miracle, basically, because it's come under like stress so many times. Particularly, do you know about the fire in 1834?
Yeah. So the fire
in 18. Yeah. So the tally sticks that they used to use as like bombs and keeping records and stuff was slowly being phased out at that period of time, with documentation as we would know it, like laws, and like you both sign a piece of paper to say, okay, so I've given you money, rather than both people taking half of a stick. And they had so many of these that they asked to burn them. They had 2 carts full of sticks, of like these tally sticks. They kind of sent the old Houses of Parliament up in smoke. And the only reason Westminster Hall was saved from the fire, because the Parliament, like the fire brigade at that time, and the insurance officers, it took so long getting down the River Thames because the tide was out, so they couldn't get down for hours. The only reason Westminster Hall was saved was because the wind changed direction at the last minute. But it's the oldest part because it's the only bit that didn't get touched by fire.
Oh, dude, that's so interesting. I might have come through that in my research, but that wind part is like interesting because, like, just the level of wind. Yeah, just like the level of wind saved historical landmark. That's crazy. Also in 1834, after the Houses of Parliament got burned, it was after that the Big Ben was created, because the Houses of Parliament were like, hey, we need like a tower and a clock over here. And they got a tower and a clock, which was amazing. But first, let's talk about this amazing stained glass. This big stained glass over here. So the big stained glass you see over here does not exist nowadays, at least not in its original form, because during World War II, it was bombed. Like this area was bombed, and originally it was created by Augustus Welby Pugin. I hope I didn't butcher that, but yeah, it was destroyed in World War II. Then Pugin's window was replaced by another and was made as a memorial to the lives of the members of both houses, which included the police officers that lost their lives in World War II over there. Yeah, so it's a massive structure that defines the lighting of Westminster Hall, and it's just so amazing to look at. I can't wait to go see it in real life. Do they hold like tours of the Parliament?
You can take tours through Parliament. There are certain things that you can't do. Like there is that when you go into the House of Commons, you're not allowed to sit down on the seat unless you're an MP. That's one of the things. You're not allowed to sit down on seats unless you're actually serving in Parliament. But there is also the public gallery at the top where you can go in and sit on regular debates.
Nice. Well, all I have to do is apply for a job at the Parliament, right?
The public gallery, you can go in and out as you choose. You just have to behave yourself.
Hey. Awesome.
By British standards, though, British standards. That's a bit more complicated than with everyone else.
Yeah. Should we go on about Big Ben?
Yeah. Did you want to give us a very quick rundown, because I'm quite conscious of time, about Big Ben, and then I think we'll go on to our next location, which... Do we want to go to Buckingham Palace or St. Paul's Cathedral next?
We are going to Blackfriars Bridge. We'll spend like 2 minutes there, okay. and then we're going to Buckingham Palace. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But just as a rundown of Big Ben, you can check out my thread. On this, I'll leave a link to you guys on the chat. We're just gonna go over it pretty quick. You could just copy paste that link into the URL. Anyway, so in 1834, as I said, the Palace of Westminster went under fire. The new building was decided to have a tower and a clock. Edward Dent was commissioned to get this clock thing started, but he didn't live up to see it. His son did. Like, his son actually worked on it, and it was replaced. The first bell that you see, well, you don't see it, but like what you hear today is. The bells that you hear today is different from the Victorian era bell, at least for the first 5 months of it, because that bell cracked and it was replaced by a 15-ton one that was carried by that was pulled by 16 horses actually, and in 1862, the bell was turned and given a lighter kick by the hammer because it cracked a little bit, and that's what you hear today. The tower was also made for Queen Victoria, as it is inscribed, but nowadays, because Elizabeth II reached her Diamond Jubilee, it's now called Elizabeth Tower. Yeah. But that's what I have on it in a gist.
Yeah, because it's a very big misconception that the tower is Big Ben rather than the bell. What you hear a lot of people say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I also love the fact that the timekeepers, because there are people employed to kind of set Big Ben's clock faces back and forth when like daylight saving time happens, they regulate the pendulum with pennies. So if it's running a bit too fast or a bit too slow, depend what clock should be saying, they will just stick a penny on one side to speed up or slow it down just a little bit.
Yeah,
Take a penny off per se.
Yeah, so like each penny would gain 0.4 seconds or lose 0.4 seconds.
All this technology and it comes down to a penny.
Yeah, I know. Plus, like, you know, the clock's hands like wind affects it, so they were made as adjustable to the wind as possible. So it doesn't go overboard on the time.
Excellent. So I think we're heading to our next location of Buckingham Palace now. So while Zark is walking over, Ada, do you want to ask some more lore questions for our audience?
Yes, absolutely. So who guessed the previous one? I think it was Arshak, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer this one.
No, it's not that. It's just that you have to choose the game for the next one.
Oh, okay, got it. What are my options?
All of them.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, the game. Let's go with my favorite game, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Black Flag, you said.
Excellent
Yeah.
choice.
Okay, Black Flag. Let me
Uh-huh.
pull it up. Oh, hey, this one is not that easy. So, what was the name of Edward's first wife?
Caroline Scott.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think I'm dealing here with people that really, really are into it. So,
I just really like Jenny.
Okay.
Jenny's one of my favorites.
Nice.
Right.
Guys, by the way, if you have questions for us to answer, that's either
History or AC law.
yeah,
chat.
like history or AC lore, just straight in the chat. Ask it. I dare you.
Since he's still going there, shall we fit another question meanwhile? He's almost there, but which game would you like to choose?
Ooh, because it's AC 15 week for Unity next week, let's have a Unity question.
Okay.
Everyone prepped. We also won't answer this one. This one is for you in the chat.
So at the beginning of Assassin's Creed Unity, it's shown that Arno had a feud with two blacksmith brothers due to him stealing back an object that he had lost in a card game. What was this object?
That's a hard question.
It's hard, yeah, I know.
For bonus points, can you name the two blacksmiths?
Ooh, yeah, that's difficult too.
That's a harder question.
Hello, everyone, just joining us in chat.
Hello.
Anyone in chat got the answer?
There's a bit of delay, so maybe they will get the question in a moment.
Okay. I don't know.
John Gray is correct. It's a watch. It's his father's watch, indeed. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I was gonna go with wine, but
Also an acceptable answer. But the answer to the blacksmith ones, they're called Victor and Hugo.
Oh, that's clever.
yeah.
That's really clever. I like that. I forgot.
I
Nice.
totally forgot. All I remember from those two is being chased by them in the beginning and then saving their asses on
From Latouche.
in
Is it
prison.
Latouche?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from like Latouche. Yeah, that's about it.
It's really funny because I'm remembering now that there's an entry about the French Revolution and Sean making a joke about it not being the French Revolution from Les Miserables, but it's
Yeah.
something else because he's tired of hearing people singing. Do you hear the people sing?
Yeah, that revolution is the one in the late 1830s, which got rid of I think Napoleon III. But Victor Hugo was also in Paris for that one and for the Franco-Prussian War in 1870, 1871. So he had first-hand experience of some of the stuff he wrote about.
Nice, that's great. Okay, we can keep going with the tour then.
Yeah.
So speaking of history, here we are at Buckingham Palace.
Yes, Buckingham Palace. Man, I cannot wait to be here. Like very close by. It's like my favorite London landmark because, like, you know, I watched The Crown, and I just wanna, like, you know, be in front of it. Yeah. Anyway, that's me fanboying on London. So let's see. Okay, Buckingham Palace was actually not in royal hands when it was built. It was some guys. He was like a politician and a poet. His name is John Sheffield. That it was like a private stately home at first, but then George George III, the king who sat on the throne during the American and French revolutions, he's like, oh dude, I need like a vacation home, so I'm gonna buy this palace. So he buys this palace from the Duke and made it his vacation home. Buckingham Palace was not used for court ceremonies though at this time. That was in St. James's Palace. But it was here that George III moved his family and where he relaxed from the many politics he had as king. After his death, his son George IV had bigger dreams for the house. He was actually the guy who used it a lot, and he commissioned this guy named John Nash, who was like, you know, a house designer back then. The budget that he was the architect. The budget that was given to him was £150,000 to make the renovations, but this guy used like £500,000 to complete it. He went like way overboard with the budget. Guess what happened to him? I'm asking. Hello?
How severe are we going to say? I kind of want to say arrested, because execution just feels a bit too far.
No. He didn't get executed. He got fired from his job. Because when you overspend on something, you can't do it. A thing like, you know, you're gonna get fired. Anyway, but he is the guy who made Buckingham Palace U-shaped. He added the west wings and the branches into it and made a triumphal arch of all Britain's victories at the center to show Britain's power to foreign officials. So like he did show Britain's power, but like, you know, when you overspend, it's kind of like, dude, don't overspend that much. But hey, it's Buckingham Palace. So after George IV, though, like Buckingham Palace was not used until Queen Victoria made it her house again. But yeah, she was the first monarch to officially move into the palace after 3 weeks of ruling Britain. But the ventilation problems in this palace were horrible. So Edward Bloor was paid to like take care of that, and what Edward Bloor also did was he constructed the most famous balcony in the world, which is the central balcony of what do you call it? Buckingham Palace. It was an idea given by Victoria's beloved husband, Albert, who she mourned after deeply after his death. But the first time the central balcony was used for public was when Victoria opened the Great Exhibition on top of the balcony. The Great Exhibition was basically like where all the big tech was shown, which is great.
It was kind of 1851. It was this big thing which was hosted in the park with the Crystal Palace, and like showed not only tech but like spaciousness and kind of like the beauty of the different countries that were part of the empire. Little bit of a spoiler, but it's in some of the early chapters of the Magus Conspiracy, the novel that's coming out in a few weeks. If you want to know a bit more about Great Exhibition, it's in there.
Yeah, the Great Exhibition is like a lot of new tech in the world was made possible because Albert was for them, and this guy had innovation.
Very forward thinking. Like,
yeah,
he helped with the renovations of where we've just been, the Houses of Parliament. He worked with wanting like sanitation in London and healthcare and all this stuff. Kind of like how Prince Philip was with the environment, kind of but up to 11 with Prince Albert. Like architecture with like health, social care, beauty, technology. He was very more forward thinking.
Yeah. God thing, you know, rest his soul. The guy changed so much about Britain, and then Queen Victoria was like, after his death, she just mourned him and like didn't show her face to London for like a long time. So like Victoria was just, you know, there, but you know, she is amazing, but Albert was like you know, her rock kind of thing. And like, talk about a man changing the world. This guy changed the world, although he was like second place to his wife. He was basically the King Philip no, not King Philip, sorry, Prince Philip to thing to Elizabeth II. So yeah, it's pretty cool. By the way, the public and foreign dignitaries only have access to like the staterooms that were shown in AC Syndicate. The interior designs that you see in one of the missions were all Nash's extravagant designs, and the wide drawing room that you also go into actually also exists, and Evie goes into it because it's a mission. So yeah, that's what I have on Buckingham Palace. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
fun little detail about when you meet the Queen. I suppose the information still applies for the current monarch. But when you exit the room from talking with the monarch and you've been dismissed, you're not allowed to turn your back. So quite often in like period dramas, like John also mentions Victoria, which was a show on ITV in the UK, which also did cover the Great Exhibition. It's now been cancelled. About halfway through. Yeah, it's gorgeous, amazing set design and costuming, but you will see them walk backwards out of the room because you're not allowed to turn your back onto the monarch.
Yeah.
That isn't even the weirdest detail. When Queen Victoria was growing up, she lived at Kensington Palace with her mother and her governess, Lazen. And essentially, they had this system of rules in place that later became a system. And they were rules that were kind of trying to keep her safe, but were very restrictive. So there were things on this list that were like, can't be in rooms with certain people without supervision, which, as a child is kind of sensible, but it's when it's like your uncle. There is also the most famous one is that she wasn't allowed to walk down flights of stairs without holding Lazen's hand. Yeah. Even when she became queen, even up to the morning of, she had to hold her governess's hand at 18.
She was a child. She was a child that was like filled with life. Like when she came to the throne, she was like she wanted to do a lot of things, and she reigned for a very long time in that era. And there were people around her that were like, oh, don't do this and don't do that, like but she surpassed them all in age, so she got to live a full life.
5 to 7 assassination attempts.
God, yeah, there were so many assassination attempts
before we move on to our last one, before we move on to our next topic, which is St. Paul's, which is where you can see. My favourite detail about the last one is that when it happened, it was outside, I think, a bus station or somewhere on like a street in central London while she was driving past. And people just started wallowing on the guy with like handbags and like school kids with their like sticks and stuff.
Oh my god, I could just imagine it.
This was in, I believe, the 1870s, so it would have only been a few years after Syndicate.
Nice.
From when Syndicate was set. But yeah, here we are. We want one more AC law question before we start some more history.
Yes. So I want to ask if, depending on the lag, but John Gray, which game they would like to choose for the next question. So all the main games are available, and also Liberation and Freedom Cry DLC.
Yes, please do ask.
Oh, I'm just asking, John, which one?
Oh, no. I'm telling John to ask.
Okay.
These are some excellent questions, I might say. You made 130, didn't you?
Yes. Took me a while. But, oh, I have plenty.
Again, we have plenty.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Like I said, more than my SATs.
Okay, maybe it's taking a little bit too long for him to answer, so I'm just gonna pick myself the game.
Yeah, we can answer it in the next part. We're going for a long time. Anyway.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, AC2. Okay, let's see what I have for AC2. Oh, this one. No, wait, that's Brotherhood. Sorry. Oh, this one is actually it's AC2 indeed, but it's about the modern day. So yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'm posting it on the... Oh shit, there's a limit of all characters. Okay, I'll just put the question then, and I won't put the options. So it says, while Sean Hastings became, in the end, a beloved member of the core group, his first encounter with Desmond wasn't very nice. Complete the following quote Sean directed at Desmond. It's not just databases, though. I also provide tactical support for other assassins. You know, Desmond. ... So,
Oh.
what do you think?
I think I know the answer, but I think I will let chat answer.
Wait, so what was the question?
Complete the quote.
Yes, so the question is... wait, I'm going to... Okay. The question is, complete the following quote Sean directed at Desmond. It's not just databases, though. I also provide tactical support for the other assassins. You know, Desmond. ...
Oh, I am horrible in this. Well, Sean Hastings became in the end a beloved.
I can give the multiple choice. That's possible.
I think I know what the answer
please.
is, but
Go ahead, Louise.
I will wait. No. This is
All
chat's time to shine.
Yeah. Go ahead. Does
anyone in chat know?
I think they're looking it up online. That's not really fair.
Am I correct in thinking it's very short what's left of the quote?
It's not short. It's one line and a bit in a Word document, or one line in a Word document. So
okay. Interesting.
They seem to be struggling, so I think I'm going to put the options. Yes,
yeah.
and I will narrate them to you. Okay.
So it's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Oh, that's all right. Wait. For some reason, they're not separated, but it says there A, B, and I'm going to put now C and D because there's a limit of 200 characters on the chat. Okay.
Great question, John Gray.
The options are... I'm just going to read the whole thing and then the answer. So, it's not just databases, though. I also provide tactical support for other assassins. You know, Desmond, the ones who are out there actually doing stuff, risking their lives, little things like that. You know, Desmond, you could be a little more like them and actually do something against the Templars. You know, Desmond, I've had enough of all these questions. Please be a good lad and hook yourself up to the Animus. You know, Desmond, every minute you waste asking stupid questions is a minute Abstergo uses to find us.
Oh, dude, these are all things he would say. He has such sass.
I know.
He does. But our first response is Meg with A.
Yes,
Meg,
and
right?
that's correct. And Meg is correct.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to put it on the chat. Yeah, A is correct. So
I love how he says, "Oh, little things like that," you know. Yeah, just risking my life.
Oh, I really
That
remember
British
that
sarcasm.
the modern day segments of especially the Ezio trilogy with Sean and Rebecca are just hilarious.
I'm so glad that we're back in Syndicate.
Oh, me too.
Amazing. Such chemistry, like the short modern day bits that we get. Remarkable. But oh, that's a gorgeous shot. I love that.
Oh yeah.
So when AC Syndicate was first announced, and there was a shot like this, and I'm like, oh my god, look at the background. It's so realistic. It's so big.
It's beautiful.
Those were the days.
Such a shame that you can't go inside St. Paul's or Westminster Abbey. Because that was one of the standout moments for like, unity for me. Being able to go into like the one-to-one reconstructions of Notre Dame or the Bastille and see all this kind of detail and like beauty, particularly a glass-stained window right at the back of not St. Paul's, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that sticks with you and just gorgeous.
Question, Louise. Is St. Paul's Cathedral anyway linked to the cathedral that we see in London? In AC Valhalla?
That was my first point that I was going to bring up. Yes.
Oh,
so,
nice.
The current St. Paul's, which is the one we see here and the one that still stands, is either the 5th or 6th St. Paul's, like consecrated ground, like church and stuff, that we see on this site. So that shot in the London Arc, where Eivor breaks out of St. Paul's on fire, is the same location as this St. Paul's.
Oh my god.
And it isn't the first time that St. Paul's is burnt down either.
That just brought shivers.
It's amazing.
St. Paul's in Syndicate and Valhalla. Woo!
But the predecessor to the one we see here, which was designed by Sir Christopher Wren, burnt down in the Great Fire in 1666. Very sad. Kind of leveled like 66% of central London, essentially, from this small fire on Pudding Lane. And the monument, which we will see later, and starts, as we see at the start of that mission, A Room with a View, where we end up here, was also designed by Christopher Wren.
Nice. But by the way, what's with you guys and with like fire buildings, dude?
So Tudor architecture, all the streets were very narrow. So you remember when Syndicate was coming out and everyone was saying that the streets were wider, which is why they developed the rope launcher. Compare that to the streets in AC2 where you can just hop across the road from roof to roof.
Yeah.
Tudor streets may have even been more compact and more narrow. Have you ever watched Lord of the Rings?
Me? Yeah.
So you know Bree, how it feels very tight and grimy and dark. And there's all these buildings that are overhanging. That is exactly what a Tudor and like medieval street would have been. It would have been smaller at the base because quite a lot of them were taxed based on surface area touching the ground and like the plot. So as they added stories to their buildings, they probably would get a little bit wider and overhang.
But
Christopher
cool.
Wren was involved with St. Paul's Cathedral, but was actually in charge of redesigning the old St. Paul's before it burnt down. Brought onto the project 5 years prior, but it never saw any work. There are some designs of like the dome shape we see in the finished product, but from this design that used to be kind of similar to the spire on Notre Dame, the predecessor looked kind of similar in architecture and style. But that never came about, and then it burnt down before you could do anything, so we just built the new one.
That's a beautiful shot.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But designs went back and forth based on what Charles II and all the archbishops wanted, along with Christopher Wren's own designs. It took until 1710 and 1711 to finish the design, to get everything sorted, to get the place, the final brick laid down by Christopher Wren Jr. and one of the builders. So his father designed the building and his son laid the last brick.
Oh, that's awesome. That's kind of like what happened with Big Ben also. Like, you know, Edward Dent made it, but then his son finalized it.
And with Isambard Kingdom Brunel as well, with like some of the sub-Thames tunnels as well.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It's all a
seems to be a
collaboration.
trend with architects.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, son, you're gonna end up being an architect.
But the St Paul's Cathedral was the tallest building in London and it was finished in 1710, 1711, until 1963. For over about 150 years, this was the tallest building in London. Sorry, 250 years. Until it was taken over by Millbank Tower in 1963 and then BT Tower in the year after. But only taller by like 12, 13 foot. Considering that this has existed a lot longer and still remarkable and one of the tallest buildings on the city skyline. Absolutely remarkable feat of engineering. But
yeah.
we were talking a lot about the design and the view. The view of St Paul's Cathedral is protected. Called a protected vista or a protected view. There's a few in America, but the most famous ones in the UK are of St Paul's Cathedral, where essentially there are certain points in London, including Alexandra Palace, King Henry VIII Mound in Richmond Park, which is by Kensington, and Chelsea, where you cannot build structures and you cannot obstruct the historic view of the building. So in some cases you will have people trimming hedges in Richmond Park to get the view, because it's such a monumental thing. And I'm sure everyone here has probably seen that famous World War II photograph of St Paul's during the Blitz. Of
searching it up right now.
It's been damaged. Yeah, where it's been damaged and there's a smoke, but it still stands strong, and it's a symbol, and it's beautiful. I love it. Before we move on, I've talked about other things that Christopher Wren's done. Some of the other things that he's built include the chapel at Emmanuel College, Cambridge, the monument, as we've seen before, additions to several royal palaces, including Kensington Palace and Hampton Court, and built at least 53 different churches in England. Specifically, more than 50 churches in London. This man basically rebuilt London from the ground up.
Wow.
And as we leave this iconic dome shape, you can see its influence in architects around the world. So the US Capitol building and the Pantheon in France took inspiration from the dome.
Yeah, I mean, I can clearly see its Greek influence.
Gothic
actually-
revival and stuff like that as well. And
I actually thought St. Paul's Cathedral is the same thing as the Capitol building in the US because they.
now you know why, because the design is so similar.
Were they both Victorian era, or when was the Capitol built? Do we know that?
St Paul's Cathedral would have been early Georgian, I believe.
Oh yeah, Georgian. Sorry. So,
Capitol building probably later. If we consider the US War of Independence was up until 1776, 1781, depending on where you draw that line of Declaration of Independence or Battle of Yorktown. I don't know. That's a very good question.
yeah.
What does the internet say?
You can continue on to your thing. I'll search it up and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have another law question.
Ooh, absolutely. So I will need Meg. I'm going to see if I can ping her. Miss Meg, Miss Ben Saib. To choose a topic. Oh, God. And yeah, I will ask in a second. Meanwhile, I think we are heading to the National Gallery, I think.
Yep. Looks like we're heading to the National Gallery, and oh my god, you know that moment where your brain just goes blank on something completely obvious? Nelson's column in Trafalgar Square. There we go.
That's okay, I get it all the time.
Do you mean like a brain fart?
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah. That tends to happen a lot when you have so much information inside that little head of yours.
Yeah, your brain goes too fast to process all the information and send it to the mouth.
Yeah.
I do love knowledge.
The more you know.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be staying too long at Trafalgar Square because, I'll be honest, I've lost my notes for it. So, luckily, just down the road is a certain music hall I think we should also take a little bit of a look at. Unfamiliar with the Alhambra?
Don't get in trouble now. This is for educational purposes.
We do not condone arson. We do not condone arson.
Yeah. This is like the equivalent of a discovery tour for AC Syndicate. You know?
Oh yeah, has to be family friendly, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Meg isn't answering, so do you, one of you want to choose?
She just said AC3, please.
Oh, wait, where? I'm not getting the... Oh, no, yeah, AC3, it's not... Okay.
Going with Connor. Nice.
Okay.
You said that in the most British accent possible. Connor.
Thank you. I'm learning British.
Okay. Who built the Who built the tunnels under Boston?
Oh, Paul Revere. No, I'm just kidding. The tunnels under Boston?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I remember this.
Ooh,
God, I'm so tempted to Google search this, but I'm gonna
no cheating.
Let it think.
Let's let the chat answer, and if they can't, I'll just pull the multiple choice question answers.
Okay, you got it. Ooh, there's a column over here.
Nelson's column.
Nelson's column? Who's Nelson?
Oh, who is Nelson indeed?
So, Admiral Horatio Nelson is who it's named for, who was the victor at the Battle of Trafalgar, hence the name of the square.
Oh.
During the Napoleonic Wars. During the battle, his last words were noted to be "Kiss me, Hardy" to, I believe, his second in command or someone on the boat. Which, interpret how you want.
James, no, I'm not British. James, I don't know who Nelson is.
I know who Paul Revere is. Come on.
Oh, I was actually asking sarcastically about Nelson because, I'm Spanish, so there's a bit of a thing with Nelson. We do know about it.
Of course.
Okay, so the answers for the tunnels under Boston, since no one is answering, I'm going to pull the possible answers, and we have Templars, Assassins, the Freemasons, and Colonialists. Not Colonialists. Colonialists? Colonists. It's not the same thing. The colonists.
Very different. Yeah, so apparently, last bit on Nelson before we move on, the outpouring of national grief was so grand that like hadn't been seen until the death of Princess Diana in the 1990s. So you know that kind of thing of like people flooding the streets in mourning, sending flowers and holding like memorial and like public mourning. Next event of that caliber was with the death of Princess Diana in the 1990s. That's how like the public eye, how big, how respected this man was. And yes, he did, Kate. He also exchanged steamy letters with his mistress, but PG family friendly stream.
PG family friendly stream. Yes.
That's your homework, kids. Go look that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so Nelson's column was built in different parts because, as you've seen, as Zark has climbed up, there is the base with the 4 sphinxes or lions. People differ when writing about them. The column itself, and then the statue of Nelson at the top. If you have the alternate cover for one of the Assassin's Creed Locust comics, you will see Evie has written "Kick Me" on the back. I think it's just hilarious. But the monument itself was constructed between 1840 and 1843 by William Railton and cost in 2021 money £4.9 million. The Corinthian style column, built out of granite, at the base were added later in 1867. So for our 1868 game, they're still quite new and quite the fascination.
You know, Nelson's column was not part of the tour, but like the way you explained that is amazing. Thank you.
I can't remember off the top of my head how tall it is, but I believe in the last 30 years they went to do some cleaning or renovations for it, and they found out that it was shorter than they claimed it to be. Like a good couple of feet shorter than it should be.
Mm.
Is there some sort of is there some sort of weird tradition that they have with the column? Because it sounds like it would be something that they would do.
Not really. The most like traditional thing people do is try and sit on the lions. Like tourists will come and try and sit on the lions or sit in front of the paws.
Of course.
But as 4 like squares art plinths in Trafalgar Square itself, and the 4th one is nearly always empty. So the other 3 have like statues of figures. Can't remember off the top of my head who they are. Bad me for losing my notes. But the 4th one is always rented out to artists. So it can be like a modern art piece. It can be a giant blue cockerel. It was when I first visited London. Or I believe in Watch Dogs Legion it was an ice cream cone. Or it's been like what looks like a melted ice cream. They just rent out the plinth to modern art. But in World War I, the area was used to sell war bonds. And at the end of the war, like we're talking 11 a.m. November 11th, 1918, a group of civilians, as soon as war broke, stopped people selling bonds by taking all of the documentation and burning it on the bottom plinth, on the right-hand side of the screen now, between the 2 statues by the embassy on the right-hand side.
Oh, dude.
And the fire was so strong that it's actually warped the marble at the bottom of Nelson's column. So when you go and visit and see, there's like a dip. The marble, the rest of it's pristine, and then it's just a little bit that's misshapen, a little bit charred, and it's been a century.
Yeah, those are some crazy facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weathered by time, well, weathered by people doing stupid things.
So
the square itself
So they had their own capital march.
I wouldn't put it that strongly, no. But the square itself was used as, particularly as we got closer to like the 1880s, as square where the homeless would congregate. It's still quite a public square, as we see here with the fountains and stuff like that. But you would have like kind of like a shanty town right here in the heart of London. And I believe January 1888 or December 87, it was very close to the Autumn of Terror and what we would know as the Jack the Ripper murders. There was a massive clear out and police would still be here, and it's very empty as we see it here, but it's always full of people and always full of, the homeless, of people who don't have anywhere to go, of criminals on release, or people escaping and can't get this accommodation.
Dude, you've read up on your research. That's amazing. By the way, you guys. Oh, go ahead.
James Archer's read the 5. I have, yeah. So, book recommendation for you: The 5 by Hallie Rubenhold. I recommend this a lot. So if you listen to me talk before, I have recommended it before. It's an alternate. I say an alternate look. It's a feminist/humanist look at 5 women who were murdered by Jack the Ripper instead of Jack, and trying to decipher who he is. Takes like this historical context into account, and like they were women, which is where I know a lot about the context here, because apparently Polly Nichols and maybe I believe Catherine Eddowes lived in Trafalgar Square for a time because they were homeless. They would have lived in this square for a time during that winter before they died.
By the way, you guys, if you haven't listened to the Jack the Ripper podcast yet, that Assassin's Creed made, it highly suggested. It's really cool. Pretty graphic. Not family friendly.
Listen with caution.
Not family friendly. Listen with caution, please. But yeah, Jack's actions were too graphic to like explain over here. Yeah. Also excuse us as the screen lighting is like horrible. Juno is messing with our servers.
If it was not said before, the answer to the previous question that I mentioned was the Freemasons. So the Freemasons were the ones that constructed and built these tunnels under Boston. And actually no one got the answer right. So, yeah, so, they all chose A, D, and B. So I am going to choose the next one, yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to say, as we walk over to Alhambra, do you want to ask the next question and pick the next one?
I will do it, yes. And I'm going to go all the way to Odyssey, I think. Just because. So, oh, this one is difficult as well. Phoebe gave Cassandra her wooden eagle during their farewell in Kefalonia. What was the name of this eagle?
Icarus?
Nope.
I've been playing too much Immortals Phoenix Rising lately. My gut instinct was Phosphor.
Yeah, I know.
Which is the name of your Phoenix companion in that game.
I know. Senu. No, I'm just kidding.
Sunan.
I think I'm going to put multiple choice for this immediately because I don't think you can answer this from the top of your head. Oh, James got it. James.
Hey!
Nice. Yeah.
Now there's an Odyssey fanboy.
Yeah. Yeah, and Malakas as well.
Well done, guys. So James will be picking the next game question. Boys?
Yeah, I don't know. Did we
Yeah,
arrive
for the
already to the
question.
destination, or?
I believe around the corner. If we just turn to the right. Welcome
we
to
have
Leicester
time,
Square, guys.
Do we have time for another one before this, or?
Just wants to say what game he would like the question to be from next. You can get that sorted while I talk through.
Perfect. Yeah.
We'll do a quick fire round for the Alhambra, and then we'll go on to Lambeth Asylum and John Elliotson. Oh, hello, Steph. Good morning. Isn't it like 6 a.m. for you? Good God. I hope you've had enough sleep.
What's up? How are you, surveillance? It's good that you made it.
I'm really
Okay.
surprised. Yeah, go on.
Okay, James. No pressure, dude. Which AC game? And I know you're gonna pick Unity.
Oh yeah, I should probably just do.
Cue that up already, yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
So, we are standing here in Leicester Square, looking at the Alhambra Theatre. It wasn't always called the Alhambra Theatre, it's gone through a couple of names. So, at this period of time, it's called the Alhambra Music Hall. And while there is no record that it did burn down in a fire in 1868, it did burn down in 1882. When the building was rebuilt, however, the design was nowhere near as grand as we see on the interior or exterior. It was what they delightfully called a more restrained style, rather than the Moorish output that we see here, in honor of its namesake, Alhambra Palace, way back in Spain. So the acts that you could see at the Alhambra, because the Alhambra itself was one of the leading music halls at the time. And even now, this area of London is rife with theatres and cinemas and evening entertainment. You would see things like the ballet, you would see acrobatics and trapeze artists. Think like Greatest Showman before they got the tent. That would be your indoor arrangements, as well as light opera, etc. But the acts that were featured would move during the evening. They would do multiple musicals in one evening. So as soon as they finished in one location, they would pick up their stuff, walk down the road, the next building, and do it all again. So they would probably do quite a few in one evening, doing the same routine, giving the same joy. But one of the kind of key locations where we get sort of face-to-face entertainment, like we do now with cinema and TV, you could use it to promote a message. Particularly during World War I, it was used to stir patriotism and support for the war effort. So songs produced by composers would be used to raise morale in some of the early cases of the war, early in the war, we used to try and get people to enlist and be like, it's what a lovely war, which is coincidentally one of the most famous songs that we still remember to this day, coming out of the music hall industry. The other one, of course, being "It's a Long Way to Tipperary."
It's kind of like this place was like the SNL of Victorian London, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
You would have big stars going through the music halls, whether it was musicians, songwriters, artists, or like I don't want to say parkour artists, things like this. They would come for your entertainment and could be very influential.
Make
But
political statements.
But
right?
at the end, yeah, could do.
Yeah.
They did quite a lot of like pro-empire stuff, which, you know, British Empire is the British Empire, and let's leave politics out of this.
Okay, yeah.
But at the end, after the war, after the First World War, and the introduction of radio and early television and cinema were instead used to get the word out, we would then start to see fewer and fewer people going to musicals. Kind of like how we see now more people are looking to stream content rather than go to the theatre. Which is heartbreaking because the theatre's so good. And the Alhambra as we know it was demolished and closed for good in 1936.
Oh,
and
damn.
What sits on its what sits there now, and I've been to this place, what sits there now, it's a cinema. Part of what the building has become is a cinema. Quote, to name the brand, it's an Odeon cinema. But an ancient Greek Odeon, Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like I would be wrong, was like an open-air theatre used for theatre and acting, singing and poetry competitions. So even though the theatre itself is gone, the name of the place where it's still standing and still happens, you know, the legacy lives on in its own quite roundabout way. I think it's perfect.
A theatre to a theatre.
Exactly. And they do
Nice.
quite a few fun film premieres too. Not history related, but I went to the Tolkien like fan premiere of the biopic there. It's a very nice theatre. It definitely keeps the like elegance up.
As an American speaking, can't wait to go and visit it. Whenever the next Marvel movie comes up over there.
Yeah. That's all my notes for the Alhambra and for Leicester Square.
Well done.
Thank you. Do you want to ask the Unity question while we head over to Lambeth Asylum?
Yep.
And start of the river.
So I'm putting it already on the chat, and the question is: who killed the Grand Master of the Parisian Rite of the Templar Order, François de la Serre?
Who killed him?
Who killed him? Yes.
Oh, wasn't it thing?
At the beginning.
Wasn't it the guy we assassinated in Notre Dame Cathedral? What's his name?
Do you want
Nope.
both names?
I want both names, yes. Although for one of them you can just say the title.
Tiver and Loadidun.
Yes, that's correct. Very well.
Yeah, I
And that's a perfect pronunciation. I love it.
oh yeah, dude. A thing like, you know, cheers on that pronunciation. I didn't even know. Hi Taylor, by the way. How are you?
Okay, so you will get to choose the next one, and since we are on voice chat, you can do it in the moment later on.
Excellent. So, I will also try and be quick because I'm very conscious we have half an hour left of our stream, and we haven't even considered the World War One section yet because I want my linear fry content.
We can go for another 30 minutes if you want. Like if you're free. But yeah.
Okay, so yeah, well, that's the Alhambra notes. Hang on. So this place was Bedlam, quite literally. So it wasn't
Where's
originally
this place?
based. Lambeth. This is Lambeth
Lambeth.
Asylum. It's south of the
Oh,
river.
okay. Got it.
I also know what this building is in modern day, but I'll save that for the end. So the building itself and what we now know as Lambeth Asylum or Bedlam wasn't originally based here. It's been dotted around several places in London as the city's expanded because Bethlehem or Bethlehem Hospital, which is where we get the word Bedlam from, has existed since the 12th and 13th century, some way or another. And to cut a long story short, its treatment of like people with mental disabilities or people put away for like hysteria or stuff like that, absolutely horrible. I'm not going to go into it because family friendly stream, and like we've seen a glimpse of how they would treat people, like being chained up, no hygiene.
Family friendly.
Yeah. To the point that there was, in the early 1800s, there was a parliamentary act, or like a parliamentary call to stop this, to kind of, you know, your Quakers wanted to use this as a way of helping people, to make people healthy again, and this was the complete antithesis of this. So, they like tried to revitalize it, and historian Roy Porter called the hospital, quote, a symbol for man's inhumanity to man, for callousness and cruelty. Which says a lot. And yeah, so some of the treatments that we see from John Elliotson, or like the electrolysis machine, barely scratches the surface of the inhumanity that goes here. And while like reform has now happened, luckily, thank God, that treatment doesn't happen in the UK anymore. There is still Lambeth, like a Lambeth sanatorium, Lambeth mental hospital, that goes under the same name on a different site. And its treatment of people is like perfect. It's, well, not perfect, but it's, you know, it's more humane. It's taking on modern like sensibilities and stuff like that. It treats people with compassion and care, which is very much not what happened here, as we all know. But there is one man who we know associated with this building from the game, who is our assassination target in sequence 4.
John Elliotson.
John Elliotson. And he is an actual historical figure, which I didn't realise until I played this game for the first time and researched it. John Elliotson existed. He lived... well, he obviously lived. He was born in 1791 and died historically in 1868 in July. And was frequently quoted as being arrogant and bullish. He was not a nice man. And that quote from Charles Darwin about his adoration for phrenology and mesmerism, he loved pseudosciences, and it got him into a lot of trouble. And he even founded the London Phrenological Society in like the early 1820s, and was its first president. Phrenology, for those who don't know, is the pseudoscience study of the brain, and saying that you can identify tropes and personality traits about person based on what their skull looks like. It's not. It's been based and discredited as soon as like from like the 1840s. It is not scientific. That's quite a stupid theory. Racist. It's quite sexist, xenophobic.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely horrible, and it was actually used by the Germans, if I recall correctly, to also separate the ones that were worthy of living in their world and the ones that weren't. So among them, Jewish people, Roma people, and etc. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I comment, since I do public health research, people still believe in these things. And it's so incredible how historical context informs a lot of the misinformation that people believe today. I think it's just it's fascinating. You do have, it's one of those things that even if you do think critically, sometimes you just kind of need that little missing link to be fully informed about these types of things. So I think this conversation is just fascinating, coming from the perspective of modernism and kind of moving forward. Well, I guess technically the Industrial Revolution is considered modern history, but I just think it's just fascinating that it's been 200 years and we still believe in pseudoscience. It's fascinating.
Well, it's not the only pseudoscience. I mean, a lot of things are making a comeback, and things have stayed like this for a long time. Look at the anti-vaxxers, for example. Now it's because of autism, but before then it was about something else. People about flat earthers, people against the theory of evolution itself. So,
People still believe in aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Has to be, right? Has to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, humanity.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're here. We're having the conversations and we're enjoying our time.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, a question about Lambeth Asylum. Did Sigmund Freud operate here, or was he somewhere else? If you know, you know. If you don't know, we can just move on.
I believe somewhere else. I think, I'll be honest, Freud isn't my area of expertise. I've never studied psychology. I believe he was more practices. This is more like mental health treatment of just taking away people who wouldn't be good in society. Nellie Bly, 10 Days in a Madhouse, is worth reading because that was written in the mid to late 1800s. It's in America, about her experiences in a sanatorium and like how those patients were treated in America. But surely there's an element of extrapolation. We can say that this may have also been happening elsewhere, and particularly it may have happened here. Oh, that got heavy.
Oh, no, that's a really good conversation to have, though, because it is because of that piece. I haven't read it myself, but I know enough of it to know that ableism is not a nice thing. And essentially, it's a very similar story, right? There was undercover work, and this was a bit of an expose, a very, very big expose, which unfortunately, the issues that had happened back then are still somehow translating to today. All right. In 2022, we're still experiencing a lot of very terrible things in mental institutions meant to assist and provide support. But the catch is that, I'm so sorry. This is where I get really passionate because this is my job.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Seriously.
Passion's good.
Oh, yes. Right. Definitely. And anyway, so kind of just like to add a little context, it's like one of those things where everything looks so much prettier now. But that doesn't mean that the issues that happened in the past have been rectified, right? And a lot of it does have to do with the lack of support in the mental health system in the United States. And actually, it's pretty much like this broadly all across the world, as far as I understand it as well. So we see a lot of issues like this in Canada, where there's a lack of support, even though universal healthcare exists. But then we also see that a lot of issues that stem in mental health institutions not receiving support is a combination of potentially politics, potentially lack of funding, and potentially lack of kind of specific training regarding how to take away the ableism, take away kind of the invalidation that we don't know exists. So I talk a lot about validating and empathy phrases when I train my community health workers. And so it's just one of those, like, I don't know how to say it because it's very complicated, right? To me, it's so fascinating. But at the same time, it's also frustrating, if that makes sense, because it's kind of like I love studying kind of the conflicts that happen among among society. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that, you know, these things aren't worth a conversation to drive things forward. And even more tricky is that a lot of it is money based. It's a lot of finances involved, and all across the globe too. It gets more and more expensive to take care of people, and that's just kind of the nature of things globally. I know the United States specifically has its own kind of like capitalism going on, and I don't mean to demean or kind of take away the capitalism that exists all over the world, but there's just a lot that goes into this conversation, and I think it's just so fascinating. So kind of coming from the lens of a public health researcher, looking at kind of these concepts and conversations of mental health asylums, it's very explosive. It's very dynamic and interesting to think about and reflect on 20 gajillion different levels is kind of how I am bringing to this conversation right now. So anyway, those are some food for thoughts.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Thank you. That's really, really good.
Fascinating. Thank you. And it's very fascinating for me hearing about it from someone who works in the medical industry, particularly as, you know, I'm looking at this as a historian, as, you know, as a Brit looking at British history. And like history doesn't stop, and while we might have different factors, particularly like you said, it doesn't, there's a gajillion different things to have, and just because, you know, it's worse off then doesn't mean it's perfect now. And I think we've seen that particularly out coming out of the pandemic.
Yes. Yes, so much to say on that because I'm technically a pandemic scientist, as my friends have liked to say. I have so much to say about this too, but we can save that for another day, Louise.
Could be it's like its whole like walking tour on its own. Thank you. Right. I think we spent so long here, but it's such a thoughtful.
It's
talk.
History. We have to talk about it. It is
history, baby.
Know, it's like knowledge.
It's fascinating too. It's just you know, there's just so much to tackle with this, and it's almost overwhelming too.
Yeah, I really love the fact that we are doing this because, like, you know, the other games of Assassin's Creed need this love of history and like this like knowledge base that Discovery Tour gives to the ancient trilogy, and you know we're doing our part in it, and it's so awesome.
Mm.
Yeah.
And particularly when you see people do this sort of thing, predominantly I've seen it with, you know, AC2 and the Ezio trilogy, or I've seen it with the Myth Saga, so the most recent 3 games, because they have the Discovery Tours, or 2 because Overly Sarcastic Productions does this quite a lot, does this sort of what we're doing now.
Love them.
With AC2 and the Renaissance period and like Florence and artistry and Victorian London and World War One is like my period of history, so I enjoy doing this for Syndicate.
Yeah. It's quite underrated, the whole thing around Syndicate, actually. And if you think about it, people do not talk that much about these same things regarding Black Flag, for example, because there's a lot of stuff also going on there. It's not as artistic, it's not as, because there were not those many advances, so to speak, because it's basically piracy and you're just visiting places, so it's a little bit static and less history and advancement in society. But it's still something that it's not that talked about, I think.
Yeah.
I'd also like to mention that like much of the information, like some of the information that I got about Westminster Hall that we covered at the start of the stream was taken from this YouTuber that actually goes and takes like a whole tour of like AC Syndicate landmarks. He did one on Westminster Hall. Well, they did one. And I'll leave a link on the chat about it, but what they do is they show you the tour, and then they put subtitles for you to like understand the history. It's such an amazing tour. I highly suggest it. Like, you know, whoever does tours of AC games before the Ancient Trilogy, major props.
Fascinating. Yeah, definitely drop that in chat.
Yeah. I did.
I think we've got 15 minutes left on our 2 hours. Ash, do you want to give a quick rundown on? I think we'll do a little bit on the railways, and then we'll head to World War One.
Can we stay? Can we stay for 45 minutes, or are we cutting it in 15 minutes?
We can do until past. I think. I think an extra half an hour of history will be good.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, that's fine as well. I mean, we lost some time due to technical difficulties.
Yeah, exactly. Do you Zark, do you want to cover your research? Talk about the train stations, and then we can go to Tower Bridge later.
We can't, unfortunately.
I think technology has so do you want to quickly summarize Zark's research, and then we'll head to World War One?
Yeah. You got it. There's like a lot of it. Let me see. Have you read the research?
I wrote the bit on the London Underground because it's quite short. And then I did the World War One stuff.
Do you want to take it, and then I'll take it from the development of railways?
Okay. But before that, shall we have another question? Another law question?
For me, yes, and it's actually your turn to choose. So.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Which games haven't we done yet? We've done a second one.
AC1, Brotherhood, Revelations, Valhalla, Origins, Syndicate again. Well, actually, it's her turn to choose, so yeah.
Okay.
So we did Syndicate at the beginning, and we're doing quite a lot.
Okay. Go ahead, Louise. Sorry.
I'm feeling. Let's go back to our boy Altair. AC1, please.
Oh yeah, let's go. Okay, so who are the companions of Altair ibn Lahat? I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. During the retrieval of a piece of Eden under Solomon's temple.
Oh, excellent question.
Can you repeat the question? I was reading the chat.
That's fine. The question is, who are the companions of Altair ibn Lahat during the retrieval of a piece of Eden under Solomon's temple? So at the beginning of the game. So well, James is half right. It's Malik, but the name of the brother, because it's his brother actually, Malik's brother.
Oh, I do know this answer, but I'm not going to say because I got the last one correct.
Give us multiple choice options.
Okay, so it's.
I'm not really good on Assassin's Creed 1 trivia.
Oh, we have an answer from Meg. Malik and Kadar, I'll say.
Yeah, that's correct. Meg is right. Kadar. Yeah.
Ooh.
And she wrote it before I wrote it, so that's again another correct question for Meg. Damn, nice.
Ooh, well done, Meg.
That's awesome.
You get to pick the next question. Or the next game for a question. But we'll do a quick rundown of railways because railways, there's a whole sub-genre of people who do hobbies involving railways and train spotting, and it's It's so depth. It's got so much breadth to it. It's gorgeous, and I do appreciate a train.
I love trains.
I like trains. Please tell me someone got that reference.
Sheldon Cooper?
Stuff movies.
What?
Do you not know? Oh my goodness.
No, you cut out.
The ASDF movies, ASDF movies.
Yes,
They're like little animated shorts. And there's one which is,
I don't know.
I like trains. Okay.
I don't know.
I'm sending this to you when we're done.
Okay. Even I'm getting educated more.
History, pop culture. What more could you what more could you want and come for? Okay, so I will start with the London Underground because
Underground. Okay, go ahead.
one of my fascinations during lockdown was this guy called Jeff Marshall on YouTube, who basically documents all these little fascinations with the London Underground and like the British transport system. Like in 2017, he and one of his co-workers travelled every single stop on every single railway line in the UK. And they have a world record for doing it in the quickest time, which is remarkable.
That's amazing.
That's committed.
But we're here to talk about the London Underground. So, the first lines of the London Underground opened in the 1860s, and the first station opened, I forget which two or three stops. About 50,000 people tried to travel on the first day. There weren't enough tickets and there wasn't enough space, so only about half of those people managed to actually travel on day one when the Metropolitan line opened in 1863. So at this current period in 1868, there are 3 lines open, 3 different versions of what we would know on the current London tube map. The Metropolitan line, the District, and Hammersmith, or is now the Hammersmith and City. Shorter lines that would still be like added to as we go along. And everyone, do you remember how you get into the vault for Michel Rouge? The Rouge vault with the Aegis armor. Oh?
What? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What was that?
It's okay. So
Louise, I'm coming off mute to say yes. I remember going into Michel Rouge's vault to get the Aegis armor.
Thank you, James.
And we should just quote Jacob's and Evie's epic lines here when she unlocks it. Should we not?
We should.
What does he say? Is there another one in there for me? That one looks a bit tight.
And you look a right tit in it.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you, James. So essentially to get there, it's through a building site. You'll see them around the map. And basically, they are building underground tracks, or the lines that the London Underground tubes are going to go through. And they do this in a version that's called the cut and cover. So basically, it's just a few feet underground. It's not very deep for these first 4 lines. And basically, they take the dirt out, put the tube in, and then cover it back up. And yeah.
Cool. That's cool.
Very easy construction. And I've kind of figured out that they're building the Circle line, which is the yellow line on the London Underground map. as that comes out it opens in 1871, and is the last line that's constructed primarily using this. But one final interesting thing about the the Circle Line is that it was run by two different companies who would not get along. One controlled the tube line going clockwise and one counterclockwise, and if you went and got a ticket from the wrong booth, they would make you go the entire way around instead of directing you to the other booth because they hated each other that much.
Wow.
So being petty is not a modern invention. Victorians could be petty.
Can I ask you a syndicate law question, Louise? Is that the line where a certain Bharat Singh is helping out with the dig, or is it not ever specified in the novel?
I don't think it's ever specified, but
shame.
It's probably.
I've never read the novel.
I want to say it's the district line, purely based on the years he was in London.
Makes sense.
Based on whereabouts it sounds like the dig is happening in London, it sounds like the district line, which is the green one, if everyone's just familiar with like the coloured lines. But I don't think it's ever said. I will go back and check when we're done, because I can see the book staring at me right now.
I've inadvertently set you homework.
You have,
Yeah.
but I enjoy this homework. But it's a very good question.
Tweet about it later. By the way, if you guys didn't know, James is from Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. That's hosted by him and another amazing human being called Declan. They talk all things Assassin's Creed, so highly suggest you follow their podcast. It's on Spotify. James, take it away, buddy.
Pardon, mate, I'm blushing. I can't say anything.
Yeah.
You're very kind. We are available on all good podcasting services, Spotify, Apple, Google, and others. Thank you very much for the shout out.
Of course.
I was hoping to join in, but I had to get dinner sorted. So now that's done, I can listen in.
Yeah, and thank you for your amazing insights. They're really cool. I didn't know things about like the Syndicate book.
It's definitely worth a read. I mean, the final third. Sorry,
Yeah.
Louise, the final third is a bit odd because it kind of retells the story of the game, but really, really quickly and with very little detail. But the first two thirds are definitely. Yeah, it's bizarre, but the first two thirds are really, without any spoilers, definitely worth reading to expand your knowledge of the Indian Brotherhood and how it connects to London.
Fry as well,
Yes.
particularly.
Oh yeah, from what I've read so far of that book, because I'm actually halfway. Well, I've been halfway for months, but yeah, from what I've read, it's actually quite interesting. It gives you quite a background about the Indian Brotherhood, like James said. Yeah.
Amazing. Good to know. I'm gonna read it. I swear.
Please do.
Yeah.
I would also recommend reading The Magus Conspiracy, which is coming out soon.
That you're
Set in
covering too.
Sorry?
That you're covering too.
What do you mean covering?
Are you gonna cover it in like a future content that you're working
Podcast?
on? Yeah.
Podcast line? Yeah.
Yeah.
My non-spoiler review is also out of the book.
Nice.
I was lucky enough to get an early copy. But as I mentioned before, it starts with in 1851, deal with Ada Lovelace, but it also tells you a bit more about wider like European assassin brotherhoodness, if that's a word. How the assassin brotherhoods deal outside of London as well as within during like the last 15 years.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Should
And
we
it's going to
move
be a
on?
trilogy, which
Should we move on to the development of railways? Pretty quickly.
yeah. Do you want to brief overview of that? I'm very conscious I've spoken pretty much for an hour.
Oh yeah. No worries.
You are my co-host.
No worries. I covered like the first half. The first 25%. You covered like the 50%. Now it's my time to do the other 25.
Go forth.
Yeah. Let's see. So the development of the railways actually. I think the union of steam and iron rails produced the railways. It was a new form of transport that would affect the 19th century in a big way, both in industrial and a social sense. I mean, in 1801, the first act of parliament was passed for the creation of a railway because, like, they discovered, oh, we can get to places faster. Amazing. And like in 1801, there's this company called no, I don't know if it's a company or a person. I'd have to search it up. Thing, but anyway, Trevithick. I think I am pronouncing it right. Probably butchering it, but this is the way it's written. They invented a steam-driven locomotive which ran on roads. And then actually the first time a railway was used, like a true team. By the way, he was a real person. His name is Richard Trevithick. But the first time a railway was used, like a true steam locomotive running on rails, was on the journey from Liverpool to Manchester Railway in 1830. As you guys can see right now, as it's going, that's amazing. You get to see a bit of tour. Until the 1850s, railways was made more for passengers rather than a freight car. But then by 18 it was in 1835 to 37 that industrialists realized that railways could make a clear profit for them. So around the years of 1844 to 1848, there was a boom that happened in the creation of railways. It was actually called the railway mania. And it was like the cryptocurrency of that age. Everyone was into it. Anyway, railways had a big impact on farming as well, as perishable goods now could be moved faster to long distances before expiration. Though the bad side of it is working class districts were demolished for new rail buildings to be made. But if anything, railways made communication become faster, and regionalization decline because people were moving out to suburbs and living their lives. So if it did anything, it added to the Industrial Revolution in a way where it transformed mobility, and it also changed the diets of the population that the population had, because food was able to travel faster before it expired. So yeah, that's what I have on the railways. Pretty cool things, still running today, which is amazing.
It's absolutely fascinating, and James has just brought a very interesting point up. I completely forgot about that railways essentially forced Britain to have a centralized time zone, as before that each city, village, township would have its own little bit of a time zone, so it could be a few minutes off the hour in London is. So a clock at a railway station could have local time, London time, and it could be 10 minutes difference. But eventually, we are now all under Greenwich Mean Time or British Standard Time, depending on daylight savings.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it as like the time, people trying to adjust to the speed of the train and making good time in trade, right?
Yeah, and it's remarkable how much the knock-on effect of just inventing a faster mode of transport can affect everything else. Because as soon as you do this, like, things are cheaper, people can work further away from home, thus searching for better paying opportunities. You see this influx of people moving to the cities with the industrialization. Goods can be transported
Great ton of research on it.
Okay.
Is the stream fine?
Yeah, it's fine. I know my audio is a bit...
Okay.
I'm getting some not issues, but like sometimes it stops to load a little bit. It started just now, so I think my internet is a little bit. But don't pay attention to
my
that.
internet.
We're doing fine. We're doing fine.
When we're done, we just have one final piece to go.
World War
And
One.
you know what? Video fry time. And
That's
I think
great.
final question time for the quiz.
Yes, so the next one is about origins. Meg already chose before. Who is, in Bayek's eyes, Hemu's murderer?
Him?
Nope. I mean, he does blame himself, of course, but no.
Well, a thing like he blames himself. He has like that whole fight with Opep, kind of dealing with his darkness, but then he clears it up by the end of that sequence.
Well, but his issue. I mean, he's hunting these people from the Order of the Ancients. So.
Is it? Can I answer or?
James actually got it correct already. It is Flavius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Caesar, Flavius, Septimius, all of them. The whole lot.
So, actually, I did have.
I will say, Ada, I had a
those in the-
50-50 chance, and I flipped a coin, and I went with Flavius.
What was the other one?
Septimius. I wasn't sure if it was Flavius or Septimius. So I
Yeah,
took a
actually,
guess.
yeah. Could have been Septimius actually, because he's also before Flavius. He was the last one to get assassinated or killed. So he's killed by Aya, because Bayek tried to kill him, but he was spared by Caesar. So when Aya went to kill Caesar, she killed Septimius, and then she killed Caesar afterwards. Well, killed. She did the first stab, and she allowed everyone else to join in and have a party on Caesar's back.
Until now,
guys.
until now, I still remember the line Bayek delivered. Abu Bakr is so amazing. He's like, he killed my child, Caesar, or something like that. When they were imprisoning Bayek. Oh man, Origins was just something else.
It was great. Definitely, yeah.
All right, let's go to World War One. Yay! Winston Churchill.
Right. Conveniently, Churchill and the suffragettes is what I was going to start with.
Nice.
Well done for reading my mind. So, Winston Churchill, Spencer Churchill, future Prime Minister. At this period of time in 1916, ex-Lord of the Admiralty, which basically meant he was in charge of British Navy after his disaster at Gallipoli, and that's putting it mildly. He resigned position. But before that, I believe, was it Home Secretary? He was involved with like home affairs and stuff like that. And one of his things was he did not like suffragettes at all, and was one of the people who supported the Cat and Mouse Act. Now, James, I know you've heard about me speaking about this before, because we talked about this on the Jack the Ripper podcast, where I was a guest. But essentially, the Cat and Mouse Act was passed in either 1911 or 1913. But early 1910s, pre-World War I, it is basically the suffragettes who were hunger striking and being imprisoned and then being released because they were hunger striking. They were allowed to be released on like medical grounds, but kept a very close eye on by the government, so that as soon as they regained health and they looked healthier and they thought they'd just got away, like a cat letting a mouse just slip away, they would be rearrested and sent back to prison for the rest of their sentence. And it was a very cruel thing, because when you think about, you know, force feedings and stuff like that they went through while hunger striking, it was not a nice thing to put upon people.
You know, it's always like a bit of poetry almost, like, you know, whatever Great Britain went through, America went through also, including, like, you know, the women's suffrage movement, because like American women were also force fed, and like, you know, they like also rebelled, and like, you know, it's crazy the parallels you can draw from Britain.
Quite a lot of
America.
their inspiration for the Americans' women's movement, for, what is it, the 19th Amendment in America, the right to vote?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the 19th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Came because a lot of the British suffragettes, including some of the Pankhursts, Emmeline Pankhurst's daughters, and occasionally Emmeline herself, would go to America and give speeches and give them ideas on what they did. There's a book called Dat in 10 Minutes by Fern Rydell, which details one of the militant suffragettes who ended up being one of the founders of Planned Parenthood, because her thing was, you know, rights for women, rights in working in the music halls, and then like things like, you know, like reproductive health and things like that. They were her three things, and it's such a fascinating read because she did stuff in both the UK and America. Definitely worth a read. There's my second book recommendation of the evening.
Gonna read it. Hopefully my library has it.
But
Yeah.
World War I is a
Tower Bridge. So we're at Tower
currently-
Bridge right now.
I have more notes on the Tower of London than I do Tower Bridge, but
okay, well,
I love.
let's
we'll
let's cover them both. Sure. Yeah.
Can I make a funny comment on the Tower of London?
For it, yeah.
The guy who lives in the Tower of London has a TikTok account.
Is this the Raven Master?
I think that's it, where he orders pizza and he has to explain that he actually lives in the Tower of London, right?
Please send me that
Oh my
TikTok.
God.
Oh god.
Yeah, I'll have to dig through it because it's so funny.
Oh god, I love the Raven Master, the guy who looks after all the ravens. Because you're all aware of the myth, right? It's essentially a myth of if birds leave the tower, England shall fall.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah. Raven Master is the yeoman warder who looks after those. Yeoman warders is the like official name for the beef eaters, if you didn't know. The guys with the I think it's it's not bearskin. The fluffy hats. And like the red uniforms. They are actually serving British military, who are probably more advanced in their careers. But they do live on site. The Tower of London, in contemporary era, they now live in some of like the outer ring of what the Tower of London is, in places off limits to people who visit the site. And like, yeah, some of them have their families there, and they go through and they live there for a couple of years and do a term, and you know, it's a remarkable job. But there's also like, you have to be inside by 10 p.m. every night, otherwise you get locked out because of the ceremony of the keys.
Which was a real thing.
It's still a real thing. It's the oldest. So we've seen it in game with Evie Fry when she goes to assassinate Lucy Thorne. When you look and start the black box mission, you know, the contingent of guards at the beginning, they like ask, oh, who goes there? Whose keys? Queen Victoria's keys. That is the ceremony of the keys. It is the oldest standing military tradition in the world that still continues. Nobody knows when it started, but it's at least 700 years old. And it has never been cancelled. Not even during the COVID pandemic. And has only been delayed maybe once, maybe twice. And that was just because, as the Household Division website put, a few yeoman warders got blown off their feet, got swept off their feet by a bomb during the Blitz. And within like 15 minutes, they were back at the ceremony. It happens every single night at 10 to 10, locked up by 10. You can actually, like we were saying at the beginning with the Houses of Parliament tours, you can go and see this happen. It's a thing you can pay, I think, £5 to go to. There are some conditions, like you can't take photography because it's a security thing, and you have to be there on time, otherwise they will not let you in. But it is still a public gathering event you can now go and see if you want to.
Definitely seeing that in London. But by the way, who here?
In advance, I would say it sells out very quickly.
I will. And who here or who in the AC community lives in London? Because you guys have to give me a tour. I think London is just so vast with like history. It's so rich. I love it.
It's beautiful. It's like there are still ruins from the Roman period where you can go and see, and over the road it will be a Georgian townhouse or a Victorian built bridge or something from brutalist architecture in the 1960s, right next to each other. The shroud, and he said the shroud there, not the shard. I meant the shard. But yeah, there's just so much and absolutely beautiful. I have a list of things to visit in London. Most of them are probably museums and bookshops, but it's still a very good list.
Yes. Wow. Well, I think, did we cover everything? Did we cover Tower Bridge?
Think so.
Yeah.
I'm very conscious that we've been going for 2.5 hours, and
Oh yeah.
we've done
Yeah.
a lot. It feels like a very long history lesson, so thank you, everyone who stayed from the beginning.
God, yeah.
Hopefully
thank
we didn't
you
overload
for being
you.
here. I think hopefully when the stream is like posted, publicly and stuff, we'll go back and see where we started, like each landmark, and we'll put a timetable for you guys to like, have your own bit of, timestamp if you wanna learn about Westminster Hall in the Parliament, or if you want to learn about Lambeth Asylum, like that. Hopefully that can be arranged. Yeah. But yeah. Who should we do another AC lore question and close off, or should we just close off?
Oh, yeah, we can do that. I think it's James's turn to choose. I don't know if he's listening to me right now, he can choose. Otherwise, I'll just go directly to Unity. But yeah.
I'm listening, Ada. I'm listening. I'm going to pick Brotherhood, please, because I'm currently playing it.
Let's
All
do
right.
it. Let's do it.
Let's go.
And a question of the night.
Yeah, this is the last one. And by the way, thanks a lot for all the information. That's been, it's been quite amazing, actually. The all the research and all the information you've given. Jesus.
It's 12 pages of research that we did. So
We haven't even covered all of it.
yeah.
Like,
Okay,
Yeah.
so the question is, and I just want like a general view of what happened. How was Ezio and Christina's first encounter?
Ooh, are we getting steamy here?
it depends on what you
Not
mean by
really. First
Depends what
encounter,
you mean
as
by
in when they met. So when they
Oh.
met.
chronologically, not the first time we see them.
No. So
Oh,
we
okay.
see- yeah.
In Brotherhood or in general?
In general, yeah. In
Oh,
his
yeah.
life.
It was at Forley. He was trying to save her. He was trying to save her from
God.
being
I
stuck
do-
at an island.
Said a
Oh,
disaster.
You
Oh,
just
no.
confused two different characters, and someone is going to shoot you.
Oh wait! That's Katrina Sforza.
Katarina.
Sorry. They have this almost the same character model. Oh God, me and history. Oh, so embarrassed.
T-Max. T-Max says a disaster, which
Yeah.
Well, it was a disaster, yes. But I'm actually going to give the multiple choice questions answers because I want you to see. I want you to see what I wrote and also.
please.
I know the answer, but do the
options.
multiple choice.
Okay, so it's now there, and I'm going to narrate it. So he made a bad joke and then followed her home after being rejected. He bought her some flowers, but she rejected him. He asked her for a dance at the Carnival of Venice, but she rejected him. He tried to buy a painting from Leonardo for her, but she rejected it. So, which rejection was it?
The
Well, how
first one.
the thing we've all accepted here is like, yeah, he got rejected.
Man, my boy getting rejected a lot.
Yeah, so Meg and T-Mac are correct. Yes, he made a bad joke and then followed her home after being rejected. And he beat up, it was not Federico, it was Vieri that he
Sure.
beat up.
Yeah.
Was it Fieri or was it Duccio?
It was Vieri. Vieri followed her
Ah,
home.
yes. My mistake.
Freaking creep.
Yeah,
Vieri.
Oh my god, seriously. Everyone in Italy at that time was a creep, seriously. Even Ezio was a creep.
I mean, yeah,
God.
Ezio was a creep, but he was a cute creep.
He
Yeah,
at
well.
least learned. He at least learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. Yeah, in Revelations he's much more tame, so that's that's good. And James is saying, is it now a good time to admit I've never played those Christina missions? I told you a long time ago, James, to play those Christina missions, and you still haven't.
This is one of the reasons why I'm replaying Brotherhood to do the Christina missions and to do the Da Vinci disappearance before it stops working. So I have taken your advice to heart, ma'am.
Good. And also the Copernicus thing. It's also a DLC, but it's not that interesting, to be honest. The Leonardo disappearance is much nicer.
Oh,
Yeah.
agreed.
I might do a thread about Copernicus when we get to Brotherhood, but yeah, we'll see.
Should. That'd be
yeah.
quite a nice read.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need help, since it's science.
You got it.
Let me know if you want a collab.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah,
you want to say goodbye.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Zark and for this opportunity. It was an amazing time with you guys, and thank you, Ada, for like keeping everything afloat in the chat and everything like that. You're amazing.
Thanks.
and Louise, thing like your research is inspiring, and
it's
God,
flawless.
you're
It was
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. I put a lot of research into this because I may be potentially doing Syndicate as my archaeology dissertation. So I've done a lot of research into it.
Nice.
I don't know if that showed.
Nice. I think it definitely shows.
Oh, it shows. It definitely. We love it.
Yeah. I want to thank Zark as well for allowing me to participate, and you guys as well, of course. Well, you people with Arshark and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm really sorry.
Arshark,
sorry, and Louise as well. And I hope we get to do this again soon. That was fun.
This was fun. Thank you so much for your insightful questions and your your 130 that I'm sure will definitely get some use. I want to say thank you to James and Steph for hopping in. Giving some delightful input. They were some very exciting and thoughtful questions that
definitely yes.
I'm glad we had that chat. And thank you to Zark for in light of technical difficulties, we found a workaround, and thank you so much for gaming and basically being our walking guide as we have been narrating history for the last 2.5 hours.
Definitely.
And thank you to the 10 of you watching on YouTube right now, all the way to the end.
Yeah,
including
absolutely.
People for whom it's 3 in the morning. Meg, Zark, Meg, Serve, I hope you get some sleep.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to do this in the future. We're talking about maybe doing it for other titles, and it's a trial and error thing. Hopefully Zark can talk next time. We'll see. Hopefully AC Unity.
We'll see. Yeah, just keep an eye on Twitter, and more news will come soon.
Yep. Alrighty. This was great.
Okay.
Happy Sunday, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alrighty.
AC-15, I suppose.
Happy AC-15 to AC Syndicate, and now we move on to AC Unity next week. Well, tomorrow.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.